Regional School Committee meeting. Today is Thursday, October 10th. This meeting will be broadcast to Channel 22 as well as live streamed or recorded to the MRSC YouTube channel. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5:32. Our first item on the agenda is to adjourn to executive session. We will take a roll call vote to adjourn to executive session pursuant to MGLC 30A, Section 21A4, to discuss the deployment of security personnel or devices or strategies with respect thereto. Regular open session to resume at approximately 6:30 p.m. We'll do the roll call vote. Ms. Rose?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Ms. Rose?
Aye.
Mr. Schiff?
Aye.
Mr. Clark? Ms. Seabrat?
Aye.
Ms. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Caton?
Aye.
And I am an aye. And we will adjourn at 5:33. Good evening. We will resume to our regular open session at 6:31 PM. The next item on our agenda is the approval of our minutes from September 26th, 2024. Do we have any questions on the minutes in the packet? No. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Do we have anybody here tonight for public comment session? We do not. Okay, moving on to reports and discussions. First item on our reports is the Shore Food Pantry with Shayna Grogan.
Monomoy Shore Food Pantry, presented by Reese Babinski and Adam Mana.
Who are we? Students in the Shore program have collaborated with Stop and Shop in East Harwich to author a food pantry for MRSD families.
What do? We offer 1 to 2 boxes of food on a weekly basis to any family in the Monomoy district. No questions asked. We picked up a large amount of boxes from Stop and Shop, and we sort, organize, and stock pantry. We took a list of families and prepared the boxes for picked up and delivery. Each morning we fill the snack tray and leave it in the hallway for students to get whenever they are hungry. We make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or mac and cheese for the students. For their favorite part, making friendship with everyone that stops by for a snack.
It's a win-win. Why are we are learning too many valuable skills: customer service skills, stocking skills, data entry, packing skills, delivery skills. Don't worry, we are not driving the vans just loading and dropping off food trading skills. Sense of community and pride in knowing that we are helping families in need. Monomoy students benefits. We have roughly over 100 students enter and exit our food pantry on a daily basis. Many students come in on Fridays and before long weekends to stock up on food, since breakfast and lunch is not always available when at home. Our discussion is always happy and full of love, so our food pantry makes students feel safe, respect, love, and ready to learn with a full belly.
Our goal with this presentation is to get the word out that the Food Shore Pantry is up and running. How do I sign up? Sign up genius. Complete this online form to schedule a pickup time for free non-perishable and perishable when available groceries. QR code too.
Curbside pickup. When? Fridays 10 to 1, where? Monomoy Regional High School. Curbside Section B, Door 19, Who? Families of Monomoy. No transportation working during these hours? No worries. We deliver to Monomoy families. Do you have any questions? Email Miss Shayna Grogan, shaynagrogan@monomoy.edu.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Jackie?
I don't have a question, but I do have just a huge compliment. This is such an important part of our district. Just your spirit and your motivation. I love how much you are learning from this program, but I love even more how much you're giving back to your community. So just thank you so much for being such important members and to your peers.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Oh,
I just have one question. Is Stop and Shop continuing the donations throughout the year? Do we need more donations for the food pantry?
Yeah.
The answer to this, to Stop and Shop
Yeah.
continue throughout the entire year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so Stop and Shop, we go every Thursday to pick it up. If you are ever there on the cash register, on the aisles there, that little package of like, this week was Pringles and rice and some other things, that's what everybody can purchase, and that comes directly to us. So that's what that little assortment of mac and cheese, sometimes it's pasta, all that stuff. And yeah, every Thursday, and then we pack it up.
So ways we can help is to purchase one of those as we check out of Stop and Shop. Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great program.
Yes, very good.
Now we know.
I never knew
Bye,
that.
everyone.
Bye. Have a good night. Where is this food going?
Next is the first reading of the 2024-2025 superintendent goals. Jess is not here. Who is presenting?
I can speak to them. I mean, so these were the goals that we just had a meeting 2 weeks ago at our last meeting, just to review with Dr. Carpenter. These are the finalized goals that we have worked on as a committee along with Dr. Carpenter. So this would be the first reading of them. Does anyone have questions on these as they're presented? This would be the time that if you wanted anything added to them, you had any suggestions, you wanted us to go back, you wanted to go back to the committee and go, hey, I have another goal I really think we would want the superintendent to do, that would be at this time.
Mr. Schiff?
Just a question, and that is the second one. And, in terms of any goal, always looking to see measurable. And I'm just wondering, in terms of breaking barriers, when they're saying continue, I'm just wondering, what's the basis or what's the benchmark in terms of how it's been working up to this point in time?
So we started this past year with recruiting mentors, and Joy plays a huge role in this process, recruiting mentors, and then met with the guidance department to identify last year's 9th graders that are this year's 10th graders. We've already met with the guidance department to identify this year's 9th graders who, so the mentors will have more students. And I still think that there are some kinks that we need to work out with. I think the mentors have been great, and we've got some really good turnout with the mentors. It's trying to, sort of build a culture with the whole group of students to sort of avail themselves to what the mentors are offering. And then we had a great suggestion came from Bree to look into the Y Achievers program. So we've actually met with Y Achievers and then shared with the mentors and the families and students who were at the meeting on Monday night of this week. And that group was unanimous that we should move forward with building collaboration with the YMCA. So I think the hope is that by September of next school year that we'll be fully engaged with the Y for a Young Achievers program. which also means that we have to ramp this up over the course of this year to involve 11th graders, next year's 11th graders and next year's 12th graders, so that we actually have, start working with a 9 through 12 cohort heading into the next school year.
Yeah, Brett, I would just follow up, because this was a goal from last year, and it's an ongoing, there are so many more steps to put into place, and as we talked about the progress of last year's goal and moving forward, that's why we did feel it would, and Dr. Carpenter, I mean, he came to us with it again. It's an important part of the district, and there's so much more to develop in it. Having the collaboration with the YMCA makes it an even larger goal than I think we originally anticipated. And I think one of the biggest things we took away from this goal and carrying it on, when you speak of action steps and timelines, is that we really wanted to see, there were some things that kind of fell through at the end of last year. What happens when the mentor's gone and you think you've gotten that student off to school? What are we doing to retain? What are we doing to maintain that relationship? So that last bullet, developing an end-year assessment on the mentor-mentee recruitment, retention, and extent of participation, that's going to give us a lot. We're going to collect a lot, or Dr. Carpenter is going to collect a lot more information that will really, I think, solidify this goal and this program that he's trying to do within the district too. So I think at the end of this school year, we're probably going to have a much more developed program that we're going to be looking at, and it will have a lot more measurables in it as opposed to the prior year.
Good.
That's awesome. Anybody else? Okay. So we'll send this off to the next meeting for a second reading? Possible vote? Yeah. Okay. Next is the preliminary fiscal 26 budget process and timeline. How can that be possible?
I know.
I still find Mr. Finance meeting. An email. It's my favorite time of year with Michael.
Yeah. Good evening, school committee. Michael McMillan, school business manager. So, yeah, it comes with some degree of shock and trepidation that we are looking already toward FY26 budget, which does seem early. We spoke with the administration team about it earlier this week, and it's like they're still barely getting through the start of this fiscal year, but already starting to turn their minds to what they might like to see budgeted for next year. So the purpose of this presentation this evening is just to give you a little bit of context of where we're starting from, and then also just outline the timeline for the coming few months. So this chart shows, it's a little hard to read up here, but this is the budget for each year since the start of the district. The bar chart represents how much the budget was. The year is along the bottom, and the number here in green or red is the percentage increase from year to year. So inflation has been high in the last few years, but we've had reasonable increases of almost 3 or over 3% for the last few years and up to 4.8%. Last year, for this year's budget. And this budget this is essentially the same information. This is that budget again, but this time broken down by how it was funded. So the gray bar here is the Harwich assessment. The light blue line, the chart is the Chatham assessment, and you've got the state funding, and then some other bits and pieces making up the rest of it. So you can see that the assessments are by far the biggest portion of our funding. And we had, there's kind of a few phases back here. It was when the school, a debt for the high school came online. And then more recently we had another kind of step change when we renegotiated the assessment formula. And so each town is now responsible for their elementary school, and that made a bit of a change in how the assessments were calculated, and that's why you see this big increase for Chatham that year as they took on their own elementary school. And inside each of these charts, it shows you how much that portion went up as a percentage increase. So as we get into the budget process, especially if you haven't sat through it before, we'll talk a lot about the budget, which will be important, but then the assessment breakdown is critical, because that's where we go to each town and say, okay, our budget's gone up 3%, but, you know, individual town, your assessment could have gone up more or less, depending on how your share of this cost is split up based on the formula. And we'll go into all that in a bit more information, but in more detail. But one of the things that will drive it is enrollment figures. So we use a variety of enrollment figures to inform the assessment. So after we've worked out what the budget is, to assess how much each town pays, we look at a bunch of different enrollment numbers, particularly now with the way the assessment is calculated. There's two really main numbers. One is the district enrollment. That's the number of students actually coming through our doors into our schools. And then the other one is foundation enrollment, which is all the students of school age who attend public school and live in our towns, even if they don't attend our schools. And the reason that's important is because that goes into all the state funding, and it determines a number of different parts of the assessment. So these charts, so this is district enrollment over here and foundation enrollment over here. It tells you the percentage share for each town for the last 6 or 7 years. And then I've also kind of outlined how much of the share has moved in the last couple of years. So district enrollment has actually moved, i.e. Chatham's share has increased by very small amounts, but it has increased over the last few years in the district enrollment. And foundation enrollment, historically Harwich has increased as Chatham has gone down in their share. And then just this year, there's a very small shift towards Chatham, but around 0.02%. So although small changes can make a big difference, this is so small it's not going to make a huge difference. We actually use, the way the assessment is worded, we actually use different years numbers at different stages in the assessment calculation. So for a portion of the assessment, we actually use historic figures. So that's how we have a pretty good grasp on what this split will be, this number, and where this is provisional because we've not actually finalised the FY25 district enrolment. But what's not up here, which is critical, is the number that the state uses. So the state uses this year's foundation enrolment. We don't have that yet because we can count the number of kids in the schools. We don't know the number of students who are living in the district and attending other schools. We'll get that information through a process the state arranges, and that drives a state calculation which influences the assessment. That's all to come. So a lot of information. We'll go through all this in more detail over coming months. But if you have any questions now, feel free to ask for any point.
Just a question, Michael, on the foundation. So the state is helping to determine their funding based on the foundation. Did they ever go back and take a look at the actual amount of students in a school? Or is it just always foundation?
So,
and what if there was, just hypothetical, what if it was, here's the foundation, but here's, the actual amount of kids, students in a school system?
Yeah, so the way it works is that the state calculates your foundation enrollment and then a certain level of funding, but then charges you for students that don't attend your schools. So they kind of give you in the calculation. So for example, if a student goes to DY, they're counted in our foundation enrollment, and we get an initial piece of funding for that, but then we're assessed the school choice cost, and so we have to pay that out. So you kind of give with one hand and take with the other. And I think it represents all the students you could be educating, which is why it's in part of the assessment calculation.
Okay, thank you.
So where is enrollment going to go in the next few years? This is really feeding into our decisions about how to direct resources in the coming years. So we use a weighted cohort model. So it looks at how many students normally progress from grade to grade. And if you lose a couple here or gain a few, then that's factored into the projection. And I use an average for the last 6 years. And so that's got this, gentle decrease. Particularly the high school is at peak right now, enrollment, and we forecast that going down over the next few years and overall the enrollment will go down, assuming everything stays the same. And that will really, that really feeds into our decisions about how we direct resources. And although it's challenging, and this is a challenge we'll get from the towns, we know is when we present to them, they'll say, okay, your enrollment's going down, why isn't your budget going down more? And apart from anything else, apart from inflation, but also, it's one thing if you lose 5 students at the high school and 3 at the elementary schools and a couple at the middle school. You really need a critical mass in one place to be able to actually make a reduction, because just because you've lost 30 kids spread out through the district, you can't really cut a teacher or a position, or so it's really not until you have a critical mass in certain areas that you're able to reduce positions. Or you can cut, we'll see a reduction in supply costs, but they're not really big enough to make that much of a difference to the outcome in budget. And then just some factors that we're already thinking about and that we know are going to impact our budget. So we have our salary agreements. So we negotiated 3 of our 4 employee contracts last year. So there was the teachers, the Unit B and the Unit C. So we know, so that means this year we have a lot more certainty over what the payroll numbers will be for the budget. Last year, we were carrying percent for possible outcomes to those agreements. This year we know we'll soon be entering into negotiations for custodians, and so in the meantime we'll be carrying a sort of assumption about how they might end up. We know, we have ongoing needs driving academic, social, emotional well-being needs of our students, driven from the school closures that happened during COVID. We continue to see those needs in the school, and we continue to seek ways to fund those needs. And if I go this clockwise, school choice enrollment. So we have relied on school choice revenue as a way to supplement the budget, and school choice numbers seem to be going down. Probably we just don't have, the right space in the right place, and so we're seeing a reduction of school choice, and that will mean lower funds available from that program. We have also seen a reduction in the number of students leaving, so that's less costs to us, which is good. This has been a kind of constant refrain for the last couple of years. We see big capital needs in our buildings. Our buildings are really well kept. It's hard to imagine when we're sitting in a room like this, but in our elementary schools and the middle school, we have a lot of building components which are beyond their useful life and need to be replaced, like boilers, windows, and so on. And then the final one is state funding. So the state funding comes out in January, and we get it finalized in about March. And that's really critical. But although it makes up a small part of our funding for our budget, it's really critical in how we determine the assessment, because that's factored into the assessment, some of the calculations that are provided there. And it dictates about 50% of our assessment calculation. So we really I have a formula to kind of estimate what this will be, but we don't really know those numbers until we get them in January. We'll get that first cut, and that will be critical. All right, so that's the starting point. Any questions about what I've presented so far? All right, thank you very much. So this is, again, it's not very easy to see up here, but this is our budget timeline that we've sort of developed. Every year as we go through this process, I tweak it and add something or change something, so that we try and have, we have a comprehensive process that addresses all the district's needs as we go through it over the next couple of months. So here we are with our preliminary budget discussion. Last year we started doing 5-year forecasts. We just look at a number, what are the big ticket items coming up over the next few years? Where are we seeing our enrollment going, for the demographics of our populations, of our 2 towns? And that just helps to inform where we think the towns may end up, where we need to direct resources in our budget. We'll also present the capital plan in the following week, or a couple of weeks later, which I'm working with the Director of Facilities, Rick Travers. He'll come to that meeting. We'll just outline, a 5 to 10 year capital plan, but really focused on the next couple of years and the big projects we see coming down, particularly next year's budget. We'll have the budget workshop, which is an opportunity for you to hear from our principals and our directors. They'll outline, the priorities for them, particularly though as they're driving the budget. That's 2 weeks earlier than it was last year, which is partly why this all feels so rushed, but that's partly just the way Thanksgiving falls this year. And then we'll have our first really full draft presentation, kind of pulling all these threads together. We'll present the budget as it stands, and then we'll come back on the 9th of January for a budget vote. And then once we have that vote, we'll send that off to the towns, and they'll have that as the provisional figure. And really, that's kind of the starting of our discussion, the start of our discussions with the towns as they review our budget, give us feedback, we kind of finalize our plans. We'll have ongoing budget discussions. We'll have a public hearing of the budget in February, and then you will have the opportunity for your sort of final official budget vote in March, and then in time for town meetings. And then hopefully it goes as smoothly as that. There's always a possibility that we're back the following week to make another vote, but we should have at least one. And then a town meeting in April, May. I have just one last thing to go through. Any comments on the timeline? Does that all look good? Yes.
I just have a question, actually two things. One is, I remember last year, the budget workshop, we ended up having to push that. I don't remember if we had to push it up or push it back.
We brought it back.
We brought it back.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it used to be in like January,
Right.
and I think one of the
So this
school committee
date,
members did that. Yeah.
in line where we were last year?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So we actually did like November, I want to say like 30th last year, around that time, but it just didn't work out.
And then my
with the dates.
second follow-up question is, where are we inserting the finance subcommittee meetings to roll this out?
So once we have approval for this, well, we're not approval, but because we're not actually voting on it, but assuming there's no major changes to this, then I'll work with Leah to start to schedule meetings throughout this. So last year,
I felt like we had a finance subcommittee before this timeline came out last year. Or maybe we talked about it and that's when we
So we
realized the
had
budget workshop
negotiations.
had to move. I don't
yeah.
remember, but.
So we also had negotiations. So last year, so I'm trying to find the right balance. So last year we
Yeah.
like scheduled loads of finance committee
did.
meetings, and it was way too much. So I'm now like I'm trying to be a bit more judicious about using your time, because I know it's important and precious.
So those will be scheduled
So,
at a later date?
Yeah, like
Okay.
within the next week. So,
Okay. Just
and-
anticipating.
yeah, and the critical points, I mean, it's all,
Oh, that's right, we did have some Friday nights, didn't we?
yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
That was a fun time,
Yeah, nobody thanked me for that. So I'm trying to,
great time.
Yeah.
No one's complaining.
that's not totally true. All right, so the last thing, I just wanted to quickly, so as we start to put sort of the meat on the bones of the budget, we'll make some assumptions that we'll carry, some of which will stay as assumptions and some of which will finesse as we go through the year, through the next few months. Health insurance, that's always a big ticket item, so we carry 10%. It's not been 10% for a few years. I really hope it won't be that high. It was 8% last year, which is the highest it's been for a while. So hopefully it will come in, I'm hoping less than 8% even, and then that gets voted around January, February time as well, when we get, so the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group sets those rates, and they get information from the health insurance carriers, and that's what informs the eventual rates. So we should get that, but again, that's not until January, February. School choice tuition, I mentioned already. I'm assuming a decrease of $100,000 in that revenue, and the charter school tuition, that's money we pay out. We're also forecasting at the moment a $40,000 increase there. That will really depend on the numbers of students that get into the charter schools, and we don't have that information yet. And then I make an assumption around Master Step 7, I think it is, for new hires, just so we have some idea, because often somebody who's more senior leaves and if they retire and they're replaced by somebody further down the schedule, that nets as a saving. We know what the salary increases are, though we'll be carrying some for custodians, and we have, I mentioned already, assumptions around enrollment. All right, so if that all sounds sensible, that's what we'll move forward with, and we'll be in touch to arrange the FinCom meetings, and you'll hear about the 5-year projections in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lovely charts. Thank you.
The next item up is the MRHS debt reissue.
So this is, at the moment, just for information. So working with our treasurer, Paul Donlan, and our financial advisors, Hill Advisors. We've been looking at the high school debt. So we borrowed $28 million for the high school construction. That was back in 2015 that started. So 2014 into 2015 our first payments were. It's due out, that lasts until 2040. And at the moment, we believe that if we go out to the market, we can get a better rate. So our financial advisors believe we will net, I think, around $800,000 net present value of savings if we refinance that loan. So that will amount to around $50,000 a year, $50,000 a year. So not huge amounts of money, but less than we're paying right now, which is always good. So we have had a meeting with a couple of meetings with financial advisors, provided them with a lot of documentation. We had a ratings call with S&P, who will determine what our bond rating is, and then we'll be getting quotes in the next week, and then we'll come back to you to vote on a new debt agreement. So to approve that loan. So it's really just refinancing an existing loan. We're not changing the maturity. We're not changing the end date of the loan. Just hopefully reducing the rate. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. And as I say, we'll be coming at our next meeting for a vote for you to approve a new finance agreement.
Thank you.
Mike, I just have one question. Are you going to be doing that presentation, or are we going to also have his name slips?
Our treasurer, Paul,
Our treasurer,
will be here.
yeah.
Yes, he will be
Is
here.
that's his annual time that he usually comes, right? Or actually, no.
So that's a great point, actually. So, no, I don't have, so that's not his annual time.
Okay.
He's coming extra meeting.
Extra meeting,
So
okay, great.
he will be coming then to he'll just be talking about the high school debt reissue. I think it's just a little early for him to be, because
That's what I was wondering. I didn't know if we were combining that, or this is just going to be that, and then he'll be back.
He's going to come back a little later
Okay.
in the budget process,
Great.
because we make some assumptions about revenue that he'll inform, and he can give us an update on where we are just overall with our investments and just generally, but that will be a little later.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you.
Next item is the legislative liaison report with the mask statement on ballot question 2 and the mask requirement.
All right, that would be me, everyone. You probably, in your email, let me just, I had it here, right here. So the Massachusetts Association of School Committees did took a position. So this is ballot question 2, when all of you go to vote. They are supporting the ballot question, so they're urging voters yes. And the reason we're bringing this up is because I know a few of us have gotten questions from the public about this. So I just wanted to let you know that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees has taken a position in favor of ballot question 2. However, in your packet, there is, and every time a ballot question or any type of bill or anything is from the state legislature, they have to take it through a process of hearing from public and experts. And so there was a joint committee of senators and representatives on the state level. You'll see them listed on the back. And then their job is to hear testimony, either for or against. And based on what they heard, you'll see that they have taken a position as the special joint committee took a position to not in no. So I just wanted to make you aware, just in case some of you are getting questions, there are mixed thoughts about this. So just so you have some education, you can just read this. Happy to take any questions. Mass took a different position. So, and it's about the removal of MCAS as a high school graduation requirement. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that, since it is on the legislative, and I am your legislative liaison. So I'll take any questions, comments, anything.
We're good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
On to the superintendent's report. Dr. Carpenter.
All right, a few things. The first, in terms of recognitions, many thanks to Katie Green of the Cape and Islands District Attorney's Office for coming to the high school last week to speak with 8th graders about cyber safety. digital citizenship and how to safely and smartly engage online. Monomoy Regional High School has also recently received numerous honors for college boards, or from the College Board for its excellence in educating students and providing all students with access to advanced coursework. Monomoy Regional High School earned a place on the College Board's AP School Honor Roll for 2023-24, meeting the criteria for gold status. The AP School Honor Roll recognizes schools that have done outstanding work to welcome more students into AP courses and support them on a path to college success, with the criteria including college culture, college credit, and college optimization. Our high school achieved gold status for college culture and college credit, and platinum status for college optimization. The high school's being further recognized with the AP Access Award, which honors schools that encourage more low-income and underrepresented minority students to take AP courses. Then, since this will occur before our next meeting, I wanted to share that students of our high school's Political Action Club, a nonpartisan group, is once again hosting a forum with candidates for the election to the Massachusetts State Senate for the Cape and Islands District. Senator Julian Cyr and Christopher Liaison will be the ones at the forum. The event will be organized by the student members of the club. The candidates will answer questions from a panel of students overseen by a student moderator. All other aspects of the debate will also be run by Monomoy students, including timing, lighting, and sound operations. The candidates forum will be held Thursday, October 24th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. In the high school auditorium. The public and press are welcome to attend the event. In terms of October 1 numbers, the numbers are in your packet, so where we finished when everybody was counted up for October 1, and these are the students who are attending our schools. So Brad, when Michael was talking about foundation enrollment, it would be the students from Chatham and Harwich that are in these columns are in our foundation enrollment numbers. The students so there are 227 students who come here through school choice. They're in the sending district's foundation enrollment numbers because the sending district is financially responsible for them. So the foundation enrollment is all the kids in the town of Harwich and the town of Chatham who attend public schools that we're ultimately financially responsible for, which is different from the enrollment figures for October 1, which are all the students that are in seats in our classrooms. So Chatham Elementary School has total enrollment of 146, which is down 2% from last year. Harwich Elementary has a total enrollment of 450, which is down 3% from last year. Our middle school total enrollment of 395, which is down 4.5% from the previous year. And our high school is at 740, that's up 2.9% from the previous year. Total district enrollment 1713, which is down just under 1%, down 0.86% overall. And this year, our 12th graders are the bubble year that we've seen, we've watched, come up, over the last 13 years to see that, that largest cohort will be graduating, and that's why in the other slides that Michael showed you that you'll see the enrollment start to come down, and that's really going to be, as the high school is still going up this year, but will start to come down in those future years. Just last little thing in terms of what to expect at our next school committee meeting. We were going to have like a report on the middle school siding project, but we were waiting for more information to come in. So we'll have a middle school siding report update for you. There's a good chance that by next time that we will hear some sort of decision from the accelerated repairs program with MSBA, so we might have a bigger presentation in terms of that. What we do need to go and put together, and Michael and I have had this conversation, is when we built this building, we had a building committee that had town representation, and it had members from Harwich and Chatham that were part of that building committee. Given the project that will be going on at the middle school, I think it actually makes good sense to get at least one member from Harwich and one member from Chatham to add another committee to the list. So Michael will be reaching out to the town managers, asking them to put forward some people from the town, ideally that have some construction, building experience to sort of form a building committee. We could think of it as a middle school exterior envelope building committee. But we should have representation coming from the school committee, and I don't think we had building committee on the original list that you all signed up for, but I'd recommend that, if you're interested in being on a building committee, maybe let Betty know, and we can add another subcommittee assignment.
Jackie played twice.
You're looking like laser eyes right at me.
Because we had, with Terry gone, Terry was the long-standing building committee person from Harwich, and Nancy Scott was the building committee person for Chatham. That's all from me.
It is my baby, so
Thank you.
I've been begging for this.
It was meant for
I'm
you.
gonna see it through.
Okay, we have no votes on our agenda. We have had the presentation of the warrants. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And we will adjourn at 7:13. Thank you, everyone.